Scientology and the CIA are like toxic exes. They just keep being drawn back to each other and then getting in these huge fights. In reality, the CIA has been infiltrating Scientology, and Scientology has been infiltrating the CIA for literally almost half a century. Here is an article from a Denver newspaper that was about Scientology that was in the CIA's file on Scientology. The CIA has a huge stash of documents on Scientology, and I find it interesting which articles they kept, what lines they underlined for their file on Scientology. For example, here is a 1980 Denver article, and for some reason, the CIA thought they needed to keep this one. Titled An Unconventional Sect, Scientologists Range Far on Their Missions. You know, stick around. I am just going to read this whole damn thing. I don't know about you, but I find it interesting. And we'll look. What did the CIA freaking underline? What did they want to keep tabs on? What is in this? Here's the article in full that the CIA felt they needed to document on Scientology. The Church of Scientology's Guardian's Office has been described as everything from an administrative arm of the church to an intelligence unit that conducts covert operations. In fact, it's a little of both. Scientology's efforts to improve treatment of mental patients and to treat drug addicts through the Narconon program are performed under the banner of the Guardian's Office. So are Scientology's efforts to expose corruption in the Internal Revenue Service and other federal agencies. But so are Scientology's undercover investigations that most recently resulted in the criminal conspiracy conviction of 9 church members in Washington. And so are covert intelligence gathering and harassment campaigns against foes of Scientology, its alleged victims claim. The Guardian's Office was established in 1966 to guard routine church activities from litigation, criticism, and upheaval. Let's take a beat. Here is Mary Sue Hubbard, the actual wife of L. Ron Hubbard. She ran Scientology with L. Ron Hubbard. He wrote it. She helped him run it. She went to prison for this infiltration of the United States government, yes, along with 10 or 11 other people. She was the head of the Guardian's Office. This woman fell hard for her cult leader husband. I will continue with the article next. Before we continue reading, I want to just mention a little something. This Guardian's Office, this dirty operations, dirty secret department, clandestine, the ones that were spying on the CIA, and then the CIA was spying on them. My stepfather worked old school for this Guardian's Office. Oh yeah. And then after I got out of Scientology, guess what I found out? My birth father, who passed away when I was 12, was a part of this organization. Now, my mom, I have yet to know, but let me tell you what, when it went over, when this organization was disbanded, just called something different so they could continue their dirty tricks under a different name after legislation. Other branches were made, and my mom was damn well a part of those. But seriously, do you know they had 5,000 agents, Scientologists? I mean, damn, I know my family was part of that. The Guardian's Office includes Scientology's public relations, investigations, legal, finance, and service bureaus, and all of the church's reform groups. Remember, this was in 1980, so it's actually, the names have been changed to protect the guilty, but that's okay. We'll keep reading. The Citizens Commission on Human Rights, for example, worked hard 2 years ago to get informed consent laws passed in Colorado to prevent unnecessary use of electroshock treatments and abuse of mental patients. Other groups include the Jairus Society for the Rights of the Aged. I haven't heard of that one before. The Task Force on Mental Retardation. I could see why that one's not used. And the Committee to Re-Involve Ex-Offenders. I don't know what that means. The Committee on Public Health and Safety, Narconon, and several education programs. Sounds like, since this was from the 80s, these are a lot of the 1980s front groups, and it's no surprise with names like those why they are defunct now. But don't let them fool you. Even though these guys might be out of business, all the other front groups that they have, and the newest ones, they're still indoctrinating the masses. Or they're trying to anyway. How's it working? How's it working for you? Have you ever even heard of Scientology before this? In the early 1970s, Scientology launched its secret Snow White project, whose aim was to uncover cases of government corruption and purge false files about Scientology in government agencies. In 1978, after FBI seized massive amounts of church files for the conspiracy case in Washington, which included information about the Project Snow White, went public and became the American Citizens for Honesty in Government. Among other things, last year the group offered a $10,000 bounty to whistleblowers who came forward to the church with information of government corruption. No awards have been made. Last year, the group was instrumental in getting the Army to order medical evaluations of soldiers who unknowingly had been given the experimental drug BZ during the 1960s. The Army was studying the drug as an enemy-incapacitated agent. The 60s were wild, y'all. 60s and 70s. Okay, this is gonna get real dark real quick. It's almost as if people in Scientology knew about things like MK Ultra. Is it documented that L. Ron Hubbard knew about MK Ultra before? Yeah, he definitely cited weird psychiatric practices. CIA spying on Scientology. Scientology spying on the CIA. Round and round they go. Members of Scientology's National Commission on Law Enforcement and Social Justice began an investigation of the international police organization Interpol after the church learned that Interpol was circulating documents about Scientology. In the mid-1970s, they testified before a series of congressional investigations of Interpol, which came up after the group obtained documents showing that former NAZI Secret Service officers have served as head of Interpol, and that is some of its officials were trafficking in narcotics. It's stuff like this that honestly is why Scientology lasts so long. Because anytime somebody points a finger at them, they just turn around and they say, oh, well, what are your crimes? And honestly, if you are some sort of politician or a government agency, like there's crimes there to be discovered. And it becomes this tit for tat. And it's been going on with the CIA and Scientology for half a century. And one of the weirdest parts about it is that over the years, Scientology has exposed massive corruption in the IRS and the government. They have been whistleblowers on actually a ton of psychiatric abuse, corruption in government agencies, corruption by world leaders, and combined with their own policies to lie, cheat, steal, sue, trick their critics, and they've been known also to falsify records and set people up, like a false hit and run, a false, SEX scandal. Scientology has in fact done what they attempt to do to other people, to dead agent them or make them an unreliable source. Who do you believe? Scientology founder L. Ron Hubbard and Scientology have long talked of a conspiracy by the World Mental Health Association and various law enforcement arms of the government, such as the FBI and the Central Intelligence Agency, to do away with religion. Some observers reject the conspiracy theory as paranoid fantasy. Okay, guys, we finally came to a point that is underlined. Can you see it? It's marked up by the CIA about this article. It says, but the files kept on the church, the Food and Drug Administration's suit on the use of the e-meter, the number of undercover agents used to get information on the church, and the repeated raids by the FBI and other agencies lend some credence to this view. Whoa, that's so weird. Okay, so the CIA underlined the part in this article about Scientology that says that Scientology thinks that the CIA is trying to do away with religion. Okay, my mind is gonna explode. What does this mean? In 1974, Scientology sued a dozen government agencies, charging they were conspiring to destroy the church. In 1978, that suit and several others were combined, and the action is still pending in Washington. That's weird, because you know what else happened in 1978? Mary Sue Hubbard and 10 other co-conspirators were on trial for infiltrating the United States government and the CIA on behalf of Scientology. I feel like they should just fuck and get it over with. And when I say bumping uglies, the idea of the CIA and Scientology, boom, 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 that is beyond bumping uglies, right? If the church is being persecuted, the question in many minds is whether the persecution has been provoked by church activities. British sociologist Roy Wallace, in his book Sectarianism, one of the few works on Scientology that isn't markedly biased pro or con, theorizes that the original deviation of Scientology from conventional religious practice led to hostile societal reaction, which in turn led the movement to adopt strategies of defense and attack towards its detractors. This, he said, confirmed society's initial conclusion that Scientology was wicked, fraudulent, or both. I'm going for both. What do you think? Trying to determine whether attacks on Scientology preceded the religion's own attacks is like tackling the riddle of the chicken and the egg. Scientologists say their aggressive activities evolved only after the government began to help other groups that wanted Scientology to fail. As government agents have infiltrated Scientology, right, they have. I mean, just side note here, I think the FDA did, the FBI did, the CIA. Okay, back to the article. So have Scientologists infiltrated government agencies and alleged enemy organizations such as the American Medical Association and the Better Business Bureau. I mean, Operation Snow White was no joke. They literally infiltrated every part of any sort of government or society agencies. The Better Business Bureau, when people called to complain about Scientology, they were just hiding those files and erasing anything bad, giving them a 5-star review. I just wonder what would have happened if any Scientologist at any point had learned any type of de-escalation tactic or skill, because it's so conspiratorial. I mean, I grew up in Scientology, and let me just let you guys know that these were the enemies. The government and authorities were the enemies, and not just they're really bad, but no. They do horrible experiments on people, but without their knowledge, they're wicked, bad, 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 bad. The older I get, the more I wonder if they were right. Oh boy. It's a tangled web we weave. In 1975, Scientology embarrassed its nemesis, the AMA, American Medical Association, by planting several agents in the AMA offices in Chicago and Washington. We're talking about straight up spies, people who had either false identities or used fake names and got jobs at these places. That is living the lie. That is it's a spy. Dubbed sore throat by the media, the informants leaked documents which revealed that the AMA's financial ties with the pharmaceutical industry, AMA lobbying for nominees for federal appointments, a secret AMA effort to defeat a generic drug bill in 1970, which it supported, and evidence that the AMA falsified records to get lower postal rates for its publications. I mean, I don't know. That feels petty to me. The first thing, getting a generic drug, that's cheaper for people. Getting that off the market or not allowing that, that's cruel. But negotiating cheaper postage, I really don't give a fuck. I'm sorry. When I say that Scientology and the CIA are ex-lovers that have been having a spat for the last, 70 years, I mean it. And it seems like they take turns being petty. I'm gonna infiltrate you. I'm gonna infiltrate you. No, I'm gonna infiltrate you. Oh, you gonna infiltrate me? Okay, that's enough. The 9 Scientologists convicted of conspiracy in 1979 were charged with stealing copies of files concerning Scientology from Interpol, bugging the General Counsel's Office of the IRS to monitor a meeting on the church's tax-exempt status, the Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA, and the Coast Guard to gain access to documents on the church. This is part of the reason that people say Scientology acts like the mafia. Because once they are investigated by the government, what do? They turn around and start harassing and investigating the investigators. Why? Because, if we get back to reading, Scientologists say government intelligence agencies have been behind or involved in most of the church's problems. You don't say. The law's after you and you don't like it? Maybe stop doing illegal things. I don't know, just a suggestion. The CIA and Scientology have been going back and forth for forever, but literally back to 1951. I'm reading from a 1980s article that the CIA had in their files about Scientology. Of all the newspaper articles in the world, the CIA couldn't keep them all. They kept a handful, and this was one of them. And I'm like, why? We're right about here. We're talking about why Scientology feels the need to infiltrate the government. Okay, here we go. Scientologists say government intelligence agencies have been behind or involved in most of the church's problems. The earliest documents they produced to prove this both originate from the Air Force Office of Special Investigations at Lowry Air Force Base. One, dated 1951, concerns an investigation of the short-lived Allied Scientists of the World, which L. Ron Hubbard founded and was headquartered in Denver, which is where this article comes from, during its brief existence. The letter requests the Denver office determine whether or not this organization has an interest inimical to those of the U.S. Gosh darn it, they used big words back then. AKA, the Air Force in 1951 was one of the first to question if Scientology is harmful to the United States, to America. I'm sorry, that was before Scientology was made. So they were already investigating the leader before Scientology was made. Wow. Scientology had problems with the CIA and the United States government before they were even Scientology. The Air Force had its radar on founder L. Ron Hubbard since before he had even thought to start the religion. In 1954, another Air Force investigation was ordered to find out whether Dianetics Inc. in Colorado Springs was composed of, quote, homosexuals, communists, or both. The report said it found no positive information on homosexual activities, subversive beliefs, or activities by members of the organization, and said no information could be found to substantiate these allegations. I feel like I can't trust anything. I mean, was this person who made that report actually a double agent, a Scientologist who they had go work for them, or what? Ooh, then they start saying in 1967 that L. Ron Hubbard's got a bunch of LSD floating around. That's weird. That's weird. You know who else was on the CIA's radar in the 1960s and was doing the LSD thing? Gosh, working with false memories and electricity through bodies. Interrogation. Gosh, this is getting fucking weird. I can't handle it. As a little girl growing up in Scientology, this all happened before I was born. I had no idea that the founder's leader was sent to prison for infiltrating the United States government. I didn't know that the cult, religion, whatever group, family I was born into had already 3 decades of going back and forth with the freaking CIA. They infiltrate them. They research them. This clandestine operation spy shit. I had no idea. How could I know? I was a little kid. But there were signs. Best way I can describe it is this severance ass shit. They hook you up to this kind of lie detector thing. They call it an E-meter. And they ask you questions. They interrogate you because they want to know, are you a spy? Not a joke. You will literally have to hold this thing, and there are questions in Scientology. Are you part of a government intelligence agency? They're asking kids this born into Scientology. You know damn well I'm not part of an intelligence agency. You've known me since I was born. I went to all Scientology schools. And Scientology keeps hella tabs on its members, kind of like the CIA. Anyway, yeah, so as a young kid, as a 6-year-old, being asked if I was a member of an intelligence agency, maybe I should have started thinking, God, it's a wonder I'm out now, right?
With each move she finds her voice.